Hello. What was that? Hello. We are back with part 2 of my Europe/Mindspo recap. I am so grateful you have decided to click play to listen to this episode. We are also now up on YouTube. So if you are watching us on YouTube, hello, how are you going? I am so grateful you chose to click watch. I'm so grateful you chose to click play and watch us here. If you haven't already gone back to listen to part 1, I highly recommend you do that first. The link for that I'll pop in the show notes and the description of this podcast and video. That way you can really get an understanding of where I was before this whole experience, why I'm dedicating 2 episodes to this whole experience, and also just so you can kind of start from the beginning. Like, this is all about storytelling, guys. We start at the beginning, middle, end. But if you are new here, this is the podcast where we talk about mindset, manifestation, meditation, personal branding, women in business, how to create the life of your dreams, just some fun little topics here. We are all about expansion. I'm all about inspiring you to start. So many of the listeners of the podcast say they just walk away feeling energized and excited about life. And so many of the listeners as well say that it feels like I'm just having a personal chat with you. So I love to just get super open and vulnerable and just share real life stuff that I feel isn't really spoken enough about online. I very much believe I am a very relatable person, and I love that I'm able to really convey that in my messaging on the podcast in particular. And so many of you guys, I get so many awesome messages being like, oh my gosh, I feel like you were in my head. Like, you said exactly what I was thinking, or I've been through that shitty experience as well, or I've been in that moment as well. So I love that the messaging really is working and the branding really is working and, expanding. And if you are new here as well, at the moment we are sharing episodes bi-weekly, so fortnightly. This is because I have my hands in a couple exciting projects behind the scenes. I cannot share exactly what they are yet, but if you follow the podcast account on Instagram, which is startsomewhere.podcast, link in bio and show notes, you would have seen I posted a story not too long ago about a new project I'm working on with my friend Katie. So Katie has featured on the podcast as well in the past. Definitely listen to that episode, guys, after this one. The energy between the two of us is just next level explosive in the best way possible. And I love Katie. We are honestly very similar people. So if you follow us on Instagram, make sure you do, because I most likely will be sharing more sneak previews on the Instagram account. So that is why we are turning it back just a little bit. I just thought first of all, why not? There's no rules, and just because I just want to try something new. So we're seeing how this is working, but thank you so much for all of the love and support and feedback on part 1. I'm so glad you guys found it entertaining and inspiring and also educational. So amazing yet again. We are ticking so many boxes. Before we get into it, I just want to say a shout out to today's sponsor, which is me, which is my own brand, which is Start Somewhere, specifically my one-to-one coaching container. Now, this is a 12-week program with 1 weekly call, which goes for 45 to 60 minutes, depending on how juicy and deep you want to get. And this is for the person who is ready. Maybe you don't think you're ready, but you want to be ready to go all in on an idea, on a passion project, on a side hustle. Maybe you already have a business that is up and running. Wherever you are at on your journey, this is the program that is going to inspire you to start, that is going to give you the actionable steps to take, that is going to help grow your mindset. And best of all, everything we work on is going to ripple on into every other area of your life. And bear with me here. A lot of the work we do, this is of course a complete personalized one-to-one experience. So whatever you are wanting help on the most, whether that be your mindset, your confidence, your marketing, your branding, your social media, whatever it may be, your confidence, whatever we choose to work on, everything else is going to ripple on, whether we work on it actively or not. And there's this one example as well, which I just love to talk about. One of my clients, we were focusing so much on her social media, on her branding, on her marketing. And what she realized, which was so cool, after we'd done so many of these sessions on these topics, she started to see her confidence ripple on into other areas of her life. because she was so confident and clear in what to post and how to post it and what to get out there to her potential clients. She started to literally embody this level of confidence within, and it started to ripple on into her personal life, into her social life. So everything I teach is a ripple. We utilize my signature start somewhere strategy, which is completely proven to work. I've got a ton of testimonials. Check out my Instagram as well, Isabelle Prestia. I have all of these links in the show notes, and you'll just literally see the incredible transformations my clients have, no matter what it is they're wanting to start. Some have wanted to start a podcast. Some already have an established business. Some want to start something straight from scratch. I've worked with some clients where we started on one thing and then realized that's not what they want to do anymore, and we pivoted to something else. So as you can see, it's just a complete diverse experience, which I love. I'm honestly the queen of multi-passionate experiences. So it's so awesome to see that really reflect in the clients I work with and what we work on. So if this sounds like something that really excites you and you're like, actually, I do have an idea about something. Maybe you're thinking like, oh, is the idea really worth it? My DMs are open for you to see if this is a fit for you. Check out my Instagram as well for further deets all about the program. If you are just wanting to chat, be like, hey, Isabelle, I have this idea, or I have a few ideas, or I've got no idea, but I know I want to do something. It doesn't matter where you are at on your journey, guys. This is the one-to-one coaching experience for you. So applications for this are still open for the final quarter of 2022. It's not too late, guys. You don't need to wait for a whole new year to change your life. I'm such a big advocate of this. Like, we don't need to wait for Monday or for a new week or a new month. It's like, yeah, it's fun to do it on those dates, but like, I'm all for starting a new life on a Wednesday. Like, why not? Don't limit yourself. So special shout out to my one-to-one program. Big fan of it. Okay, so the podcast that you have been waiting for, whether you realize you're waiting for it or not. This is the podcast I've been so excited to record, if you cannot already tell from the excitement in my voice. So this is going to be all about my Mindspo experience. So I went on a Mindspo retreat in Cyprus at the end of September. So I was already on a holiday in Europe. I live in Australia, if you can't already tell that yet. And I was in Europe for a few weeks. And well, actually, I had Mindspo booked and planned February of this year. So I was like, okay, if I'm going that far across the world, I may as well make my trip worthwhile. So I did a bit of travel beforehand, and then I had my Mindspo treat to look forward to at the end. So first of all, I've wanted to go on a Mindspo retreat since 2019. I've applied to go on about 2 and I got accepted, but then I just didn't have the funds, or I couldn't get the time off from work, or some other bullshit excuse got in the way. So I was persistent. And when I got to the start of 2022, if you've been tuning into the podcast since then, I highly recommend you go back and listen to those episodes, because you really can see the whole journey of how I got to be where I am now, how I got the mindset to where I am now, and everything else in between. There's been a lot that's happened from the start of the year till now. So I really affirmed and declared that this is the year I make shit happen. This is the year I do everything I say I'm going to do. And I have done everything I've said I'm going to do. At the start of the year, I had this whiteboard and I wrote everything I wanted to achieve. And just a couple of things that come to my mind right now. One of them was to launch an app. The second one was to attend a Mindspo retreat. The third one was to create my own one-to-one and group coaching programs. I launched an app. When I wrote that down, this was before I even knew Carla was doing this thing. I was like, I don't know why, but I'm just going to launch an app. For some reason, something just inclined me to do that. And I wrote it down, and literally a month later, I'm on a team to launch an app. So I'm like, okay, this whiteboard is magic. I'm clearly onto something here. And then the Mindspo retreat. And this was before they had announced their dates. And keep in mind as well, where we're at the start of the year. So there was the war happening in Ukraine, and then Mindspo released that they were doing a retreat in Cyprus, and Cyprus is very close to the Middle East. So I was like, okay, like probably not the smartest decision, like danger-wise, if I do go to this, because who knows what is going to happen. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm just going to apply. Like, I've said this is the year that I'm going to do everything I say I'm going to do. And so I filled in my application yet again. I was like, hey guys, remember me, Isabelle? This is the third time. And I got accepted, as usual. And then it came the time to pay for the money. And I'm like, I am putting my money down. I am making this happen. And side note as well, like I really have a soft spot for Mindspo. They are really what got me into meditation when I reckon I was maybe at uni still. I think I was 21. I'd found their brand. They had just started. So it's run by two entrepreneurs called Rochelle Fox and Chris Soul. And they originally were based in the Gold Coast. And that is when I actually found Mindspo. I want to say probably just on Instagram. And they had just started Mindspo. They were teaching meditations and really educating people more on the power of meditation. And I'm like, this sounds like something I want to kind of get to know more of. And so I think they maybe had like a meditation course or something at the time, and I did that, and I learned meditation, and I wasn't very consistent with it, but I knew it's something I wanted to learn more on. Fast forward a few months later, Mindspo put up a job ad for an intern. They wanted a virtual intern to help them. And of course, I was such a fan of Mindspo. I loved what they were about. I was at uni. I needed to do an internship. I'm like, perfect. I'm going to apply for this. I applied and I got the role. So I was interning for them. I don't even remember, maybe like a couple months. I don't remember much about that whole experience, but I just remember I was interning for them and I was very excited, and it was very cool to see more of the behind the scenes. And I remember actually they were planning, maybe it was like one of their first few retreats in Mykonos, and I was helping them I was helping them look up recipes and food ideas for the meal plan for the retreat. So it's pretty wild how I've gone from intern to essentially helping them plan the meal plans for the retreat, to fast forward to 3, 4, 5 years later to being a participant on the retreat in CYPRUS. So that's a pretty cool journey. So I've been very much involved and followed Mindspo for a very long time. And as well, I also got to interview Chris Soul, who is the other half of Mindspo. So it's Rochelle and Chris. I got to interview Chris on the podcast a few months ago. So definitely go listen to that episode. Chris is so interesting to speak to. And we spoke a lot about the power of mindset when it comes to running a business, and how to avoid burnout and how to run a successful business. And of course, how the power of meditation really just like falls into this so much. So that was such an epic conversation, and stay tuned for an episode with Rochelle Fox that is also coming up very soon on the podcast. We got to chat a lot on the retreat, and she said she's keen to come on. So we are going to be recording that. We may have already recorded it by the time this episode comes out, but that is going to be coming up very soon. If not, it's already out. So actually, no, it won't be out yet. Very soon. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be another epic conversation. So I have a bit of history with Mindspo, if you can't already tell, hence why I knew this experience would be more than just a really beautiful, fun, expansive week, which is exactly what it was, but I just knew it would be a little bit more because I have just so much connection and like meaning and association with it. So I'm going to give a recap / review of the retreat / what the experience was all about, the logistics, how it happened, like what we did, and just, of course, the incredible like life realizations and aha moments I had. So beginning the retreat, I really taken it, from the very beginning. I flew into Larnaca, which is in Cyprus, from London, and I landed in Larnaca at like 2 a.m. I was absolutely beyond exhausted, and I'd actually booked a very beautiful bougie hotel for that night because I'd been slugging it out in hostels for weeks and I wanted some bouginess. I wanted some class. So I had a gorgeous hotel. I wish I was there for longer so I could really just like enjoy every minute of it. But had a beautiful sleep in a giant bed, had a wonderful buffet breakfast, and got treated like a queen. So I loved that for me. And that was just such an epic start to the most expansive week I've ever gone on. And I'm like, it only makes sense for me to go through this and to have this type of expansion for the week I'm about to embark on, essentially. So got in at 2 a.m., danced around the room, was so happy I was there, crashed, fell asleep, woke up bright and early, had this incredible buffet breakfast. I had like 4 plates of food. It was intense. And then I had a taxi booked with myself and 2 other girls to go to the Mindspo retreat. These 2 other girls, I had no idea who they were. I had not met them before. We just had a group chat. I said, hey, who wants to share a cab to go to the retreat? Because the retreat was actually about an hour away from where I was staying. So my hotel was quite close to the Larnaca airport because it was like 2 a.m. And then where the retreat was on the other side of the island. So Cyprus is an island and we were on the complete other end, right near the coast, near the beach. So, I mean, the whole thing is obviously a beach because it's an island. So I shared a taxi with 2 other girls. One was from New York, one was from London or England. Obviously the same thing, but I'm not sure if she was actually from London or not. So Aussie, American, England, we got in the taxi together and it was like an hour drive and we just hit it off instantly. Conversation was just so amazing. Like the biggest thing from this trip is like I was surrounded by like 25 other girls who you could just sit next to any of them and just have such a great conversation because we all just had such a common similarity about us, which was like our openness, our willingness, our kindness, our compassion. Like you could just talk to anybody about anything and like you would hear conversations and think that these girls or myself or whoever, like you'd think that we've known each other before because of just how close we became instantly. And connection is such a big value of mine. It's everything, to be honest. I mean, that's why I've got this podcast, so I can connect with you guys. And of course, connection in real life. Like I'm really able to make friends so easily. It's amazing. I love that. And just to really be able to connect with these 2 girls straight away. And I could just feel like the magic and the expansion. And it was just like, it was so, so beautiful and special. So straight from the get-go, I'm like, vibes are on. Like we are on the road to an incredible week. And we arrived at the villa complex. So the way it was set up is they pretty much hired the whole entire villa complex. And there were maybe like, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 villas. And we had about 4 to 5 or 6 girls per villa. So we rocked up to the villa complex. Everyone was, meeting each other, like quite nervous actually, saying hello to everybody. And I realized that I was the only Aussie apart from my friend Chloe. So I actually knew Chloe. She's actually a part of Sala as well, the manifesting queen. Chloe is also a teacher on Sala and she lives in Melbourne. I'm from Adelaide. So we had a connection prior. So it was just myself and Chloe, the only Australians. Everybody else was from the UK or America. So at the beginning, I was like, oh, wow, like, like when other Aussies are traveling and you find another Aussie and you just kind of like, oh, Australian, like, you kind of just like have that barrier gone. Like when I was traveling in Spain and Morocco, like I was pretty much only with Aussies. So it felt very comfortable. It felt very relaxed. It felt just, you can relate to them. Like you probably have some kind of connection to them or whatever it may be. So for me now to not be in my, I guess, quote unquote comfort zone around other Australians and to be around people from other cultures and countries, like, yeah, our common denominator is we speak English, but, sayings and phrases and culture and this and that, like there's still differences there. So to be around people like this, I absolutely adored it. But at the beginning, it was a bit of a shock to me because it wasn't what I was used to. And I felt like, I'm like, oh, am I a bit of an outsider here? But yet again, if you haven't listened to the first episode, definitely go do. But that week I went through before going on my Europe holiday, if I didn't go through those challenges that I went through, I truly believe that I would not be able to hold myself as well as I did. And that really is like with this independence and with this sureness about myself. And that week before my trip, I really had to face challenges and hurdles and put myself first and say no to things that don't serve me or that don't serve my future self. And honor all the work I've done on myself, honor all of the self-development I've been doing for like 6+ years. And it was such a beautifully painful experience of my life. And I truly believe if I didn't go through that whole week, I wouldn't be able to hold the expansion and be able to hold the new insights that I really got from my holiday. Not just Mindspo, but just the whole thing in general. I truly believe I wouldn't be able to hold and appreciate and recognize all of the learnings and realizations if I hadn't gone through that shitty week before my trip, because that shitty week really just like tore down so many walls and shadow sides and brought up so many emotions that some I hadn't ever felt before, some I hadn't felt in a very long time. And it really made me feel so comfortable in my own skin, with my own emotions and with who I am as a person. And I feel if I didn't go through a time like that, into such like a turbulent time like that before my holiday, I wouldn't be able to see the whole experience of my trip as I am now. So it was a very profound / deep thing for me. Like unless you haven't picked up, like I very much am a very, very deep thinker. I'm very intuitive. I'm very connected. I am very energy sensitive, and it's just becoming more and more stronger. And I feel just so guided and supported. And if you listen to my episode where I was a guest on my own podcast, that was a couple episodes ago, I share my reason for being so open and vulnerable on the podcast. And I share my reason for essentially doing what I do and really supporting how I just shared. Like, I'm very intuitive and I'm very connected. Like, I know deep down, like in my heart and in my soul, that this is my purpose, and creating content is my passion, and my purpose is connecting to other people. Hence why connection is such a strong value of mine. And I know I'm here to pave the way. I know I'm here to go against society norms and not do what we're supposed to do. I know I'm here to be courageous and to put myself first and to be that ripple for other women. Like, I know that's why I'm here. And the more I connect to my intuition, to my higher self, like, I can't even put into words to explain how much it guides and supports me. And I mean, it's funny. It's like I've kind of not really been very open about how spiritual I am, because I don't know why. I don't even know how I'm getting to this whole tangent here, but spirituality is truly how I do what I do. Spirituality is how I hold myself the way I do. My spiritual connection is what guides me and protects me. Like, I'm at a point now with my magnetism energy, like my energy is so magnetic. Like, I know that, and I know how powerful I am. And for so long, I was somewhat undermining that, and I wasn't giving it the recognition it deserved. And how you view yourself is how other people are going to view you. And so I don't know why I wasn't viewing it in the light that it should have been. And so for me, when walking on this retreat, one of like the first few moments, there were actually, like, we all obviously got to know each other and, spent a lot of time together learning who we are, what we do, what it is we want to manifest, that kind of thing. But one of the first things that Rochelle said to us that really stuck out to me, which isn't even to do with like manifesting really, was that, when we realized what everybody did for work and that kind of thing, there were quite a few coaches there. And she said this thing, which is like, if we are coaches or, whatever it may be, like, or if you are somebody who knows a lot of these concepts, just take that hat off and be in that receivership energy, be in that student energy. And I feel if she didn't say this, I wouldn't have gotten such a somewhat like profound knowing and lessons and learnings, because I really was in this receivership energy, which really is that feminine energy. It's not being a know-it-all. It's not having your ego up. It's not being like, oh, I teach this, I don't need to learn this. It's actually being like, yeah, I know these concepts, but that doesn't mean I can't hear a different way to apply them. And if she didn't say this to us, and if I really didn't listen to us, and I was like, all right, hat off, like feet up, I'm literally a student, I'm going to be like, pretend like I know nothing. And actually this really, really reflects the episode I did with Chris, which makes a lot of sense, with Chris Soul. And he had this really awesome saying, like, the loudest, or the person who knows the most is always going to be like the loudest talker, and they're always going to try and be a know-it-all and, XYZ, like be that type of person. But knowledge is power, yes, but just like be humble and just like keep your mouth shut. And when I do more episodes on magnetic energy, especially, like, I really feel like I've entered a whole new wave of magnetic energy, and I can't wait to share with you how to get there. But essentially, from me really being in this receivership energy and really just like acting like a beginner student to these concepts of meditation and manifestation, I can't even put into words how powerful I have become at manifesting. It's unreal. And it's been about 2 weeks now since I've been back from the retreat as I'm recording this, and I've just completely leveled up in what it is I'm manifesting. Like, playing it small doesn't even exist in my dictionary anymore. The things I'm manifesting are just beyond my wildest imagination, and I'm keeping them so close and dear to myself. And I am seeing signs and glimpses of them coming into my reality within 10 days of applying what I've learnt. And I'm seeing this and I can feel it. And it's just, like I shared this in, I think it was the previous episode, like how life is just turning out for me and how life is becoming for me. And I just cannot wait to keep sharing this whole journey with you guys, because what's about to happen is just beyond unreal. And I can't wait to share it with you, because you are essentially getting front row seats. You're getting front row seats into how I get there, right? Like, I'm not just here to show like some pretty finished, polished ending and that's it. Like, I'm going to show you what goes on behind the scenes. Like, it is this shadow work. It is this confrontation. It is this taking our hats off and not being a know-it-all and putting our ego down and being in this receivership energy, right? Like it's all about balancing your feminine and masculine energies, which I speak a lot about and I very much embody a lot of. And I've really fallen into my feminine energy so much this year, and it serves me so much. Like I can't even begin to explain how much it just has advanced and up-leveled so many things about me. And like as a female, like we have both of these energies despite your gender. And as a female, of course, we identify more with these feminine energies. And so when we can really honor that in ourselves, that is only going to work in your favor. And that essentially is like a concept of alignment also. So yet again, random tangents, but this just shows like how transformative this whole experience was for me. And so the way the retreat worked, it went for 7 days, and we had a workshop on about 5 of those days. And these workshops were roughly like maybe 1 to 3 hours, depending on the topics. And they were on meditation and manifestation. And essentially, in order to manifest, you kind of have to start with meditation first. You have to clear the mind, get calm, get clear, find your strength and stillness. And then once we essentially have that down pat, we can then move on to the concepts of manifestation. Like you can't really manifest from like a fuzzy, anxious state or a state where you're not really feeling your most aligned, calm, at peace self. That's not saying I'm sure you can do it, but it'll just be a very tricky thing to do. So that was how the workshops were structured. So Rochelle and Chris, they taught separately. So we had them as teachers, them each teaching their own concepts. So it was actually like really beautiful the way it was worked out. So I was in a villa with myself and 4 other girls who were all from the UK. And it was so amazing. Like I just loved being around people not from Australia. And it was like, we all just got along so nicely. And it was just beautiful. Like I loved our villa. It was great. And also like the villa itself was beautiful. Like we had our own bedrooms, we had this gorgeous pool, we had this huge like kitchen living area. Like we really just got to live, which was really, really nice. So we had our villas, we had our pool, we had breakfast and dinner included in the retreat. So this was obviously a part of what we paid for. And that was really nice to have those 2 meals included. So every morning we would have breakfast at 8 a.m. We just go to the main villa. They had a chef there. She was a local from CYPRUS, and the food was always so beautiful, so fresh, so delicious. So we'd go there at 8, have our breakfast, and then we'd have our group meditation at 9 a.m. And this was run by Chris. So we'd all go into the main workshop villa, they called it. And this is where we'd do our group meditation. After the meditation, we would start our workshop. So either Chris or Rochelle would take it, and it would run for either, the 1 hour, the 2.5, the 3 hours, kind of just depending what the concepts were. We'd have a break in between if we needed to as well. And most of the days we would wrap up by lunchtime. So once that was over, we'd have the whole afternoon to ourselves, which was so great. So normally from about 2 till 5, give or take, whatever it may be. And so what we did in our villa, especially on the first day, we went to the supermarket, we bought a whole bunch of food, and we decided to make all our lunches at home, like at the villa. 1, to save money, 2, to like save going out all the time, and 3, just because why not? Like we really just wanted to chill. And I'm so grateful we did that. That was really nice. We'd come back to the villa and we'd all make our own little individual lunches, and then we'd all sit out by the pool and, we'd have music playing, we'd be journaling, we'd be chatting about like the workshops, what we've learned, we'd be chatting about life. Like it doesn't matter the degree of what the conversations were. They were just like, it was just so nice to be able to really just like cultivate and build strong connections with these girls. Like it wasn't just surface and, like what do you do for work or blah, blah, blah. Like we really could just, I think this is my limiting belief here, or I think I want to manifest this, or this has happened in my life. Like I really want to change this about it. Like to have that was just, my cup was just like overflowing. And, like everyone was just so like-minded, and you could just have so many similarities with so many of the people there, but at the same time, such drastic differences. So it was so cool to really be immersed around that. So we'd have our free time in the afternoon, and then on most of the days, we'd then do a group walking meditation. So we'd all put on our activewear and we'd all walk down to the beach, which was like not too far from the villas at all. And we'd all have our manifestation walking meditations, like playing in our AirPods and our earphones. And we'd all kind of go off and go our separate ways, walking along the coast and the boardwalk and the beach. It was just so beautiful. Then we'd all come back together at the end. And it was really nice to kind of have that as like a solitude type time, but at the same time, we're all doing the same meditation. So just this sense of belongingness and fulfillment and purpose was really just around us. And it was just so beautiful, like so beautiful. Those walking meditations, I'd never done one before, but I've been doing them since I've been back home. And the level of gratitude and peace you feel after is second to none. And I think now that I'm playing the same one I was doing in CYPRUS, when I'm walking around the streets of Adelaide, it just brings me back. Like I literally imagine myself being back at the beach in CYPRUS, walking next to Rochelle, having this meditation playing, feeling the most overwhelming but like beautiful sense of just like gratitude and recognition for being there. Like to be able to tap back into that feeling and bring it back with me when I'm walking in, you know, the streets of Adelaide. It's just a whole new experience I've never had before. And it's just so beautiful and transformative, and big fan of walking meditations, guys. They're really, really powerful. So then we'd all have dinner together around like either 6 or 7 p.m. Same kind of deal. Would rock up, would have a beautiful, beautiful feast, like amazing meats and salads and pasta bakes and desserts and just like incredible food. And then some of the nights we'll have them off, just chill. Most of the time we had very early nights because they were like quite heavy days in terms of a lot of knowledge and learnings and this and that. Or we had like a couple parties on like the first and I think like the second to last night. We'd had like a sharing circle one night. So yeah, it was like 50-50. It was a really nice balance of free time, of learning, of being around people, of being by yourself. Like you so easily could just be like, I'm just going to go off, you know. On one of the days in particular, we had it was a free day essentially, and you know, some people hung out together, some people went to the beach together. Classic me, like packed myself a little bag, sunnies, AirPods on, my favorite thing to do, and I just ventured out on a solo day. So there was this one moment in particular. So towards the end of the retreat, we did a letting go ceremony, and leading up to this day, the day before that, we started to really get clear on these new beliefs and stories and identities about ourselves and essentially what we want to bring into our life, so what we want to manifest. So we did a whole letting go letter where we say goodbye to things we're no longer available for, things we no longer want to have into our life. I've done a few of these before, so it was really cool to do this again and to do this in like a different way also. And so of course, as we said goodbye to certain things, we obviously welcomed in new things as well. So we got clear on what those things were. And the following days when we had this letting go ceremony, and this was honestly the best day I've had in forever, we rented a 100-person catamaran boat. I think that's what it's called, this incredible, beautiful big boat. And we sailed around the Mediterranean Ocean for like the whole day. And it was just so expansive and beautiful, like crystal clear blue water. You could literally see the very bottom of the ocean. It was so clear. There were fish everywhere. The weather was incredible. The water was so warm. It was just perfect. And I'm somebody I'm not a big fan of the beach. I hate jumping in like off jetties or off high things, or I just don't like getting my head or my face wet because I wear contacts and it just like hurts my eyes. And I don't know, I've never been like a huge beach, like I appreciate the beach, but I'm never like, oh my God, I love the beach. So when they spoke about this whole thing and, you know, they're like, we're going on this huge boat in the water, I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's really my thing. Hear me out here. So what we have to do though, this is what really kind of made me think, is this really my thing? So we had our letting go statements, and what we were going to do is we were going to read out our letters in front of everybody and then affirm what we are now available for and jump into the ocean as like a ceremony to say goodbye to the past and welcome in the new. And I was like, oh my gosh, jumping off a boat into the water, like no. Anyway, we got to the moment where we have to do this, and guys, I jumped off the boat so many times because I had so much fun. I did it once and I was like, wait a minute, this is great, and it just kept on going and going. So yay for conquering a fear. And it was just so much fun, like just this whole trip. And you know, I was sitting with Rochelle at one point and we were talking about it, and we were having such great chats just about life and manifesting. And, you know, because I was telling her, I'm like, this has been on my vision board for like years and years. And, you know, we're reflecting how I've gone from intern to now being on here. And, you know, I really got to open up a lot with her and speak a lot about my business and share a lot with them. And they gave me like such great insights and advice as well. And it was just really, really nice to really like form that connection with them. And, you know, when we're sitting on this boat, I'm just like, this is just something I've never done before. And we're really just like appreciating and being so grateful the fact we are here with all these other like-minded women, like just literally living our best life. Like, had drinks, had snacks, we're getting tipsy, jumping off the boat, swimming, had like these like snorkels, looking at all the fish, like just absolutely beautiful. And I was sitting with Rochelle and we're just like looking out in the ocean, and she's like, yeah, it's like real like rich bitch vibes, like sailing on the Mediterranean on a boat like this, like, and I'm like, that's exactly what it is. And that moment was just, honestly, get me back on that boat. Like, that was just the best day of my life. And it's funny because I was just like low-key nervous about the whole thing and jumping off and this and that. Like, that's not really my thing. And side note as well, guys, I had this screensaver on my phone for like months, and it's this photo of this like really beautiful beach with all these boats. And it's funny because the photo is like blurry, just this random thing I found on Pinterest. I don't know why it's in the background for so many months. Anyway, as we are walking to when we're about to get on this boat, I look out and I was like, holy fuck, where have I seen this before? And I look at my phone and it's my screensaver, the exact image. And I'm looking out and I'm looking at my phone and I'm looking out and looking at my phone, and I say to one of the girls, I'm like, am I going crazy or is this my screensaver? And everyone's getting around being like, holy shit, yes it is. I had like subconsciously manifested this without even realizing. Like, this photo, I look at it now, it's like blurry, it's like fuzzy. Like, why was that my background for so many months? I don't know. Clearly subconsciously for some reason. And I just can't even explain like how, I don't even know what the word is to use to explain like how unreal that moment was. But that's how I knew. I'm like, you know what? I'm supposed to be here. Like, fear aside, jumping off aside, anything else aside, I am supposed to be boarding this bougie-ass boat with all these other incredible like-minded girls and to live my best European life right now, sailing the Mediterranean in the summer. Like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And it was just like a pretty epic moment. So the power of manifesting, the power of things happening behind the scenes, like without us realizing sometimes. Anyway, so that was my fun little story about the boat day. Another thing as well from the retreat, so as I shared, like I did know, like I've been meditating for over 3 years now. I've been manifesting for so long. Like I knew, yes, a lot about these concepts, but for me really being in this receivership and really listening to just new ways of understanding how these concepts work, the best thing is that it really showed me how much work I'd done on myself. And when we really were getting clear, there was just one exercise, for example, on our beliefs and what we want to change about ourselves and our identity and, you know, what we want to let go of in order to bring in the new. And when we were going through a lot of these concepts, it was just such a really warm, fuzzy feeling inside of me to be like, that used to be me not even that many months ago, but I have done a truckload of personal development on myself, but that is no longer me. Like I have worked through my self-worth, I've worked through my self-love and, you know, XYZ, everything else in between. Like I've worked through all of that, and now I'm able to manifest on like a whole new, bigger, larger scale. And that was just like the most humbling experience, because I'm like, I was in that place not even that long ago, and here I am now, like completely healed, completely moved on from all those experiences. Like, yeah, shit's gonna come up again. Like I'm sure by the time this is up, something would have come up, but like that's just life. But I'm just able to handle these situations so much better. And that's how I keep coming back to this week before I left Australia. If I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be able to hold what I was able to hold from being on this trip, from being on this retreat especially. I wouldn't be able to hold everything, all these insights and knowledge and just new ways of seeing things. It's really like I'm still trying to figure out how to articulate it, but it's like I've been given this map and I'm able just to kind of see through the map and see like a whole new route to get there. But I wouldn't be able to identify that new route if I hadn't gone through what I went through, if that kind of makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So it really was very beautiful for myself to see that. I was like very, very proud of myself, like insanely proud. And, you know, being proud of ourselves is what we should all aim to achieve. Like it's not this cockiness or anything like that. Like just obviously be humble, but just be proud that you've gotten yourself this far. Like everybody's at a different checkpoint. And the thing as well, like don't be fooled by what we see online on social media. Like we only really post the highs and the polished pretty photos and goals and that kind of thing. Like we don't really see the ugly behind the scenes. And yet again, that's why I love to just really open up and share like real life stuff in the podcast, because I'm so aware how like detrimental it can be for us when we are only seeing like the highs and the greatness of people's lives, but we're not seeing like, the mud they had to get through to get there. So little side note there. And as well, like I think the last real big like profound moment I'm going to chat about with the retreat is, and my whole experience, like my whole trip, to be honest, but especially the retreat, because I really dropped back into myself even more, hence how I'm able to share what I'm about to share. But it was this new sense of clarity for my business, for me, for my life, for my vision, for my future relationship, for my friendships. It was this new clarity. And I think I've just become so clear, cut through essentially with my boundaries, with my standards, with what I'm going to accept and tolerate, with who I'm going to tell what to, and with essentially what I'm going to tolerate, like in every area of my life, in personal, in business, in friendships, in dating, in relationships, in home life, in, whatever it may be. And I think for me, like there was this one moment as well, which I tell a lot of my friends about when they ask. It's, there was this moment I was walking along the beach in Cyprus and just looking out in the ocean and being like, okay, I've gotten myself on the complete other side of the world right now. Like I'm at a beach right now. There's a beach back home in Australia that looks very much the same as this beach right now, but that's not where I am. I'm here in Cyprus. I'm away from everything I'm used to. I'm away from everybody that I know. I'm here with brand new people, with brand new friends. I'm here with a brand new mindset, with a brand new perspective. And it's just this sense of detachment from home, this sense of detachment to what I'm used to, this sense of detachment to old behaviors and patterns and cycles. And this was more towards the end of the retreat, towards the end of my whole journey, and to really reflect and be like, not even just how far I've come, but more so where I want to go next, and that it is so attainable to achieve that instantly. Like we don't need to wait for XYZ. We don't need to wait for when this happens or whatever it may be. And I realized a lot of, like my biggest realizations and learnings from manifesting is that I was always putting my manifestations essentially up on a pedestal. And I was so close, but also so damn far to achieving them. And it wasn't until I learned all the learnings from my Mindspo retreat, and I had all these really, huge self-realizations, that I could see how easily it is for me to just take one little step and I have my manifestations. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And the only way I can explain this feeling is like it's this beautiful, overwhelming sense of joy that I felt throughout the whole retreat, especially throughout my whole entire trip. This joy of this new person I was stepping into, coming home to ourselves essentially. The person's always been within me, but this new joy and this sense of proudness that I've been manifesting this whole life. I've been journaling about this whole life, visioning, meditating on it. Like those who get it, get it. Those who don't, they don't. Simple as that. You either choose to get it or you choose to not get it. If you get it, you're with me. You're no doubt still sticking around here. When you can envision a life for yourself, and then when you start to live that life for yourself, it is a whole new array of emotions that comes up, because it shows your power. It shows your ability to create with the universe. The universe only wants to see you win. And so if you can start to embody that yourself, and you can only start to want other people to win, you are mirroring what the universe wants. You are mirroring the universe's true intentions. Therefore, it's essentially going to push you forward in the line and give you, better, faster treatment for you to then attract the life that you want. It's pretty cool to have that realization. Like extremely cool. And just now that I'm back home in Australia, and I've allowed a lot of the learnings to really integrate, and I can just tell I can just tell that my manifestations, like I'm so mindful about now what I'm manifesting, because it comes true. And sometimes I want something in the moment and then it passes and I'm like, damn. And then it comes true and I'm like, damn, I didn't actually want that. So I'm so mindful about my intentions. I'm so mindful about my manifestations. I'm so mindful about who and what I allow into my life now. And that is only working in my favor, like essentially. And I've got a lot of things I keep to myself. I've got a lot of exciting ideas for my life, and I tell like next to nobody about them because it's so much more powerful to let your actions speak. I say this a lot, but my biggest pet peeve is people who just all talk and there's no action followed, because that's my pet peeve, because you're not honoring yourself, and I want to see everybody win. And by constantly talking and not following through, you're doing a disservice to yourself. Therefore, you are pretty much not going to get that. And that like pisses me off, because like, don't you want to get to where you want to be? Like, you're saying this, and like my archetype, like who I am within me is like, I'm a coach, I'm a mentor. Like, I want to see people win. Like, I want to teach you and lead you to get you there. So if you come to me, you know, whether a client or friend or whatever it may be, like, it doesn't matter. But if you say you want to achieve or do something, like, I believe in you. I'm going to back you. I'm going to do everything I can to get you there, but it's essentially on you. But I'm going to be that person cheering you on, whether friend or coach. Doesn't matter what role I am in your life, or podcast host or person on YouTube, like whatever role I am in your life right now. But if you then cannot honor that for yourself and take the action that's required to get you there, like, that's just doing such a disservice. And that's like, you should be pissed off at yourself for that. Not mad at yourself, but just know that you can change that any second. Like, you don't need to wait for Monday or for next year or for next month. Like, change it right now at this very minute you're listening to this podcast. Doesn't matter what day it is. Doesn't matter if you're halfway through your work week. Doesn't matter if it's 9 p.m. at night. Change that right now, and just know that find somebody to back you no matter what. And watch the rest unfold, because I was that person for myself. I've always invested in coaches and mentors because I've realized the power of them. And then, of course, I stepped up into that role, and now I am that person. But I'm still always coaching myself and recognizing where I am playing it small and where I am not honoring myself, where I'm doing a disservice to myself. Like, I'm not perfect. We all say shit and then don't always follow through. Like, I'm not trying to preach perfectionism, because, yeah, perfectionism is something we should never strive for. But if you can just really start to honor the things that your heart and your soul and your mind desire, I'm walking living proof that life just gets so, I use the word magical because it's a fucking cool word, and just so blissful and easy and effortless and amazing. And you really can create any type of life you desire. You don't have to confine to society norms and think you need to do things that our parents and society and jobs and bosses and schools and unis tell us to do. Like, you don't need to do that just because they're telling you to do that. Like, you don't need to. And when you start to go against that, it's going to feel icky and tricky, because it's not what we're supposed to do, right? Like, we're primed our whole life to live a certain way. And essentially this retreat, like concepts that were taught in this retreat, is going to apply what I'm going to share right now. It's all about unlearning patterns and behaviors and thought processes. How I think of me is how you're going to think of me. What you think of yourself is how other people are going to think of yourself. I've cultivated beautiful self-love for myself. I know my worth. I know my standards and my boundaries. Therefore, people are going to mirror that back to me. I mean, yeah, we're going to get the odd person who's just going to be a bit of a wanker, but whatever. As a census, people who love you and have good hearts, they're going to reflect that back. And it's so wild and amazing, the fact that we can change our identity, we can change our stories and our self-beliefs at any single moment. It takes work, yes, like it's not just happen just like that. It's consistency. That's why I'm so passionate about talking about healthy habits and routines. Like, it's setting up these practices, these journaling exercises and visualizations and meditations and whatever else is that just that fills up your cup, that helps you get to where you want to be. So that was my experience of Mindspo. That was how much it just expanded my mind, but also just brought me back home, brought me back to myself, reminded me how powerful manifesting is, how powerful I am, how powerful you can be, how much meditation is like my best friend. Like me, meditation is just going to be forever. If you haven't meditated before, I really hope this inspired you to. Like seriously, if this didn't inspire you to meditate, I don't know what will. Meditation is a hack. It's a trick. It's a superpower. Manifesting is a whole new level of superpower, and you either get it or you don't get it. I'm sure everybody still here gets it, and you can see if my story, I share a lot of manifesting stories, but if this story in particular, if that hasn't given you some inspiration to start manifesting a whole new life for you, like don't play it small. If you want to manifest a cute little bedroom, like a cute little 1-bedroom apartment, like why don't you make it some big like penthouse apartment? Like why play it small? Like ask yourself why you don't deserve the penthouse apartment. Is it because it's too ridiculous what your parents will think or XYZ? Like get curious on that. Like this is what I mean, guys. My manifestations are just going to be on a whole new level. I can't wait to share them all with you when they come true, because it's just really important to keep certain things close to your heart, because that way you know that it's something special that you have. So I'm going to leave it on that note there. I am going to love you and leave you. As always, I greatly appreciate you have stuck around, you have listened to the podcast, you've watched us on YouTube. I would appreciate it so much if you screenshot the podcast. Let me know where you're listening from. I know a lot of you guys listen to us on your walks. Maybe you're driving, maybe you're doing some work, whatever it may be. Definitely go screenshot the podcast, share it to your stories. That way I can reshare the love. You can tag startsomewhere.podcast or my personal Isabelle Prestia. Either way, I'll give it a reshare. And I hope you have a beautiful morning, afternoon or evening whenever you chose to click listen to this. And as always, I will speak to you in the next episode. Bye guys.